Right now, though, let's talk to Jake Wallace-Simons, author and columnist at the Daily Telegraph, of course. The BBC has been in the firing line pretty much for the last 2 years, ever since the October 7th attack, basically, and even before that, but particularly since then. Lord Mann, the government's advisor on anti-Jewish hatred, has been so alarmed at some of the anti-Semitism that's been coming out of the BBC that he's actually called for senior executives to be fired over that controversial Gaza documentary, and he's also suggested maybe they should have some anti-Semitism training, but apparently they don't want it. Jake, very good morning to you.
Good morning.
So, I mean, the BBC goes from bad to worse, it seems to me. I mean, I can't remember the last time they did anything. I mean, even yesterday, when Hamas operatives were admitting to killing Palestinians because they demonstrated against Hamas in Gaza, you know, the BBC didn't seem to want to cover that story at all. Instead, they had a lot of sort of anti-Israeli stories.
Yeah, I mean, if you collated all the examples of anti-Israel bias at the BBC, you'd have a dictionary, if not an encyclopedia of lists of things. And, you know, and it really is quite egregious, and it does seem to be systematic. I mean, we had that hour-long Hamas propaganda documentary, which was narrated by the son of a Hamas commander and all the rest of it, which created this latest scandal. But that was only the one, the example that happened to break through. Right. There's lots of other examples over the years, not just since October the 7th, even before, of, you know, pro-terror songs being performed on the BBC Arabic in particular. There's a chap called Mr. Fafo. I don't know if you've heard of Mr. Fafo. He's a Hamas actor who appears in lots of their propaganda. Yeah, so he appears as a corpse, as a doctor, as a bereaved parent, as a fighter, as a journalist, all the rest of it. He's been on the BBC in news reports. I mean, it's just a laugh, really, at this point. And
wasn't he in that Gaza documentary as well?
He wasn't. Well, he may have been. There's a shady figure that could have been him, so we don't know. But Lord Mann, you know, quite reasonably said to the BBC, "Do you think you might want some help with this problem?" And they said, "What problem?" And look, you know, whether anti-Semitism training would work with the BBC or not, I've got my doubts. I mean, it's not something that you can. It's a bit of a deep problem to solve in half an hour of, you know, try to be nice training. But even so, it would have been a good start, wouldn't it? But the problem is that the BBC constantly takes a defensive stance against this sort of thing, rather than saying, "Look, it was a genuine mistake. We won't do it again, and we'll apologise," and all the rest of it. They say, "Look, you know, it's you trying to get us. We're the victims here. We're just doing our jobs. And it's these evil Zionists who are trying to bring us down," which is the whole problem, really.
Exactly right. And Lord Mann has said that he wants there to be a proper inquiry into this Gaza documentary, how it was made, how it was commissioned, who okayed it. We understand that Deborah Furness, I think, saw it before it went out. Didn't seem to think there was anything wrong with it. You know, nobody seemed at any point to question why or whether anybody was involved in it who might have a link to Hamas. It turned out, of course, that the boy in question, his father is a Hamas, I think, agriculture commissioner or something like that. But obviously, the fact is he's in Hamas. And you constantly hear on the BBC, "Oh, well, he's in the political wing of Hamas." And you're going to go, sorry? No, there is no political wing of Hamas. Hamas is a terrorist organisation. The point ends,
yes.
You know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a terrorist organisation, both the political wing and the military wing. But look, you know, he was just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the documentary. There was also the cameraman had tweeted in support of October the 7th. Right. All the children who were presenting this documentary were links to Hamas, not just him. Yeah. And frankly, I saw the documentary before it was pulled by the BBC, and how any executive can watch it and think, "Oh, that's okay." Totally beyond me. There was one brilliant scene where Abdullah, the guy who's on the screen right now, was on a cart talking about how difficult it was to get drinking water in Gaza. Meanwhile, you can see in the background stalls selling Coke, clothes, even pet food, loads of water. And then it cut to a social media influencer, a girl who does recipes on Instagram, shopping in abundantly stocked grocery shops. I mean, the whole thing really was a bit of a joke. And how BBC executives can sit there and watch it and think, "Looks all right to me," it kind of says more about them than it does about us, I think.
Absolutely right. And what about Tim Davie? Because, I mean, he's been under a lot of pressure for all sorts of reasons lately. This is just one side of the BBC's problem. You know, when you think about Hugh Edwards, whether he's ever going to pay back the money, various other stories of scandal that have happened, the pressure that they put on people to pay the licence fee, which is going up in April along with everything else. You know, he just seems to be pretty Teflon-like, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, you know, Lord Mann was right to say that heads have got to roll about this this Hamas documentary. But like you say, the problems that the BBC faces are far more extensive than just this one awful example of propaganda. You know, Tim Davie, like you say, he's been a bit of a survivor. Whether his head will be the one that has to roll or not, I don't know. I doubt it. I mean, the thing about the BBC is that for every decision that's made, there is about 5 or 6 people that you can say it was their fault.
Yeah.
Nothing really comes down to one person, and therefore any blame gets dispersed and people continue in their jobs. So I think Lord Mann's right to say that we've got to cut through that and find the people responsible and try to change the culture at the BBC. But whether or not it will take down Tim Davie, I don't know.
Yeah, we shall see. Good to talk to you, Jake. Thanks very much indeed. Jake Wallace-Simons, author and columnist at The Telegraph.